Christian Glass's parents faced the deputies involved with his death. They want more officers charged. We asked the DA. Getting kids in rural Colorado the mental health help they need in school districts that often don't have the dollars. Denver's new Compost for Everybody plan is going to run into a problem. People don't know how to compost, and that can contaminate everything. We're answering your next questions about Colorado's coming bag fees and whether you'll pay for bags if you do pickup or delivery. And just looking at it, you can tell this house is different. Now the choice comes. Should it be saved? All that is next. Christian Glass's parents finally came face to face with the former deputies charged with killing their son in Clear Creek County. That happened at court this morning. Prosecutors say that more officers on the scene that night could end up being charged. Body camera video shows that the account given to the public by law enforcement was not accurate. Last June, Christian Glass called 911 after getting his SUV stuck in Silver Plume. It appeared he was having a mental health crisis at the time. Deputies surrounded the vehicle and got increasingly agitated that Christian would not get out. Now fired Clear Creek County Deputy Andrew Bune is charged with second-degree murder for breaking Christian's window, shooting him with beanbags, tasing him, and eventually shooting and killing him. Kyle Gould, Bune's supervisor that night, is charged with criminally negligent homicide for allegedly watching a live stream of body camera footage and approving the decision to break into the SUV. Christian's family wants to see more of the officers on scene charged.
It's a crime. It's a crime, failure to intervene. You're watching a bully committing a crime. They had a duty to say stop. No one did.
It is possible that there could be more in regard to what the grand jury is doing right now.
You've heard from the parents first there. You heard from prosecutors second there. In court today, Gould requested permission to travel to Arizona to be with his families for the holiday. Christian's parents objected, saying they won't get to be with their son for the holidays. The judge allowed the travel, set the next court date for January 30th. Denver city leaders are expecting a continued flow of migrants coming here from the southern border. 50 more arrived overnight. The city's Emergency Operations Center was brought online last week to coordinate what was happening when 150 migrants arrived without warning. Most were from Venezuela, and some came through El Paso, Texas on the way here. The city says it believes the groups have just connected on social media and decided to come to Colorado together. The city does not know how many more migrants to expect or when, so the city is asking for help from nonprofits, faith groups, and private partners to pitch in for additional resources. Clothing donations from the public are being taken right now at Iglesia Ciudad de Dios on Warren Avenue off of Federal. There are not enough school counselors to help every student who needs it. Problems worse in rural areas. So there's a push to train teachers and other school staff to respond to mental health emergencies. Here's Mark Salinger.
The counselor's office inside Pioneer Ridge Elementary School is always busy.
We're not here just to teach kids how to read, but also how to function as humans in society.
Erin Nelson sees the need every day. Her workload shows the challenges mental health counselors are facing in schools.
So at one point, I was almost at 700 kids for one counselor here in this building. Now we're under 500, so that's good, but that's still one of me to 500 kids.
She's outnumbered, working in a rural school in Johnstown. But she actually feels lucky. Her district hired a psychologist to help. She knows other districts are far worse off.
I'm happy that it's a priority because I know a lot of small districts don't prioritize that piece.
The pandemic made her job even more important.
Yeah, I don't like doing suicide assessments on elementary age kids. It's terrifying and scary.
We really just saw kiddos that were struggling and didn't know what to do about it and who to talk to and where to go.
Inside classrooms at the University of Northern Colorado.
Prior to coming into the program, I was a teacher.
Ashley Coburn and Brianna King are trying to figure out ways to make the most of limited resources in rural school districts.
Urban schools have teams of people to address these issues.
They're working to train as many people as possible in youth mental health first aid.
And our idea was to bring it to rural communities who might not have as much access as non-rural communities.
The training gives people like teachers and school staff the tools to help kids with mental health. In a world where there aren't enough counselors, they want everyone to know how to respond.
That's the hope, is that in training more non-mental health professionals, they will be able to identify some of the signs that kids will present with early on in hopes that they can intervene.
Taking the load off people like Erin.
But I do think it would be beneficial for teachers to have more in that tool bag to help the kids when they do come with problems that they need help with.
We all know what a first aid or a CPR class looks like. A mental health first aid training is kind of similar, helping people identify other people who need help and then giving them the tools to actually help. In schools, teachers are trained on things like identifying substance abuse issues, depression, or anxiety. It's focusing on things that may be often overlooked, but, Kyle, could be signs of deeper problems if they aren't addressed.
You know, Margaret, somebody who grew up in a rural area, I know there's kind of a stigma about asking for help with mental health that maybe doesn't exist in every urban area. And then you also have the perception that people know each other's business in a smaller town. You might not experience that in the city or the suburbs.
Yeah, I was talking about that with the researchers at UNC today. They were saying that breaking that stigma is kind of one of the first steps. Asking for help is the only way that they're actually going to get that help.
All right, Mark, thank you. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert issued a call for political civility, which Boebert abided by for roughly 16 hours. That included an overnight where she presumably was sleeping. Boebert's brief flirtation with governing rather than political flamethrowing was posted on Saturday night.
That starts with a promise to you to be a good listener, to take a deep breath and help take the temperature down in D.C.
And Saturday night's promise lasted until about 9 o'clock Sunday morning. Then Boebert was back to doing what's gained her so much attention, nonstop attacks on Democrats, saying Joe Biden's enabling a humanitarian crisis at our border and directing Republicans to go on offense. Boebert has experienced these brief interludes of political civility in recent weeks since her close race. On November 18th, she told our sister station in the Springs that, quote, the temperature needs to be taken down a notch. And then right after that, Boebert pushed conspiracy theories that LGBTQ Americans are grooming children for sex. Within the hour, we should mention, a recount confirmed what both Boebert and her Democratic opponent have recognized. She narrowly won re-election in her heavily Republican district. The recount only changed a handful of votes. A new state law protecting abortion access faces a big test in Pueblo tonight. City Council there is expected to vote on what would basically be a ban on abortions within city limits. The ordinance was drafted because of an abortion clinic planning to open in Pueblo. If passed, this would prohibit the delivery of tools or medicines that could be used for abortions. The ordinance would also allow private citizens to sue abortion providers for performing the procedure. Abortion rights activists say that local bill would be a violation of the state's recently passed Reproductive Health Equity Act. That act prohibits restrictions on abortion access. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser says he will challenge any local decisions that violate the state's protections. The process of rebuilding a home after a wildfire can take years. As some Marshall Fire survivors are just beginning the rebuild process a year after that fire, there are insurance benefits set up to help them that are already winding down. The state's Division of Insurance is asking insurance companies to extend their coverage of what are called additional living expenses, funds that can go toward things like emergency housing or other necessities after a catastrophe. Some homeowners in the Marshall Fire area are covered for just a year, so that coverage is running out in weeks. The state's asking insurance companies to extend the coverage and give them up to 2 years. Insurance companies have until the end of this calendar year to tell the state whether they're on board with that. 3 of your most recent Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns have helped fight hunger in Colorado and raised nearly $90,000 combined. Last week, you gave a boost to Community Table, which has served Arvada and North Jeffco for decades. They've got a grocery store-style food pantry. They've got a mobile pantry that goes out to senior living facilities. And they've got other specific help for families at risk of homelessness. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns just passed the $10 million mark. If you have an idea of a nonprofit that could use our help together, email me at next@9news.com. I read each and every email.
Everyone in Denver getting a compost bin is going to have a very predictable problem. People putting stuff in the compost that shouldn't be there, and turns out that's a mess. You cannot escape Colorado's coming plastic bag fee, no matter how you buy your groceries. And an architect's interesting house could be demolished, unless the city is convinced to save it. Next.
Next year, Denver will bill homeowners for trash pickup while expanding compost and recycling. This is trying to incentivize recycling and composting over trash. But one of the companies that processes Denver's waste says expect a steep learning curve. A lot of people in Denver already recycle. The service is provided by the city. But only about 32,000 people in the city currently pay for the city to do compost. Those are the green bins. Starting next summer, Denver will make compost pickup available for an additional 150,000 households. A1 Organics, the company responsible for processing and selling the city's compost, says the influx of new customers inevitably means that whole truckloads of compost will be contaminated by stuff that's not supposed to be in there, like glass and plastic.
If that volume increases and contamination increases, one, we're going to reject the load if it's too much, because if it's an unmanageable level of contamination, we're going to direct it. So all that effort now goes to the landfill. So you just wasted all that effort.
A1 Organics doesn't sort the compost they receive, they just process it. The sorting responsibility is first on whoever is putting materials into compost, so us at home, and then city waste management crews. If you're new to the whole composting thing, A1 said just start slow. Put in like your yard debris, so leaves and sticks and that kind of thing, as well as any unprocessed food.
You sent a ton of feedback and questions about Colorado's plan to transition away from single-use plastic grocery bags, starting with a bag fee next year. Several of you echoed the question posed to us by Jan, asking if people who do pickup or delivery groceries will still get charged the bag fee.
I'll tell you how many people wrote in with that specific question. So here's the deal. In short, no, you're going to get charged. So starting in January, using a single-use paper or plastic grocery bag will cost at least 10 cents extra. It's a tax that's added at the point of sale when cashiers tally how many bags you have, or if you're at self-checkout, it asks you, and you answer, honestly. That tax applies to delivery and pickup orders as well, unless you're purchasing reusable bags or you provide your own when you come to pick up the groceries. There are some stores like Walmart that are trying to do away with single-use bags entirely. Walmart will still provide paper bags for its delivery orders. Here's who is exempt from this. Small stores with less than 3 locations. They're exempt from the bag fee and eventually the bag ban, as are restaurants. And the only shoppers who can opt out of the bag fee are people who are enrolled in food assistance programs. So many of you have reached out to us with one question around the holidays. Yes, we've been working on it. This year's next Christmas ornament. Here it is, our 2022 version. Target rocking around the Christmas tree. So if you've been with us for a while, you know for the last 3 years we've done these paper printout ornaments that people seem to get a kick out of. Enough people asked, we decided to do it again this year. You can find the pattern that you just print out and put together there on 9news.com or on any of the next social media pages. It's simple. You fold on the dotted line, you cut, you tape the 2 sides together. This is the 3rd year we've done one of these. Here's the OG. Remember this? The miniature version of the wood pile from my basement? Now devoid of wood, because remember we cut that up to turn into tokens of appreciation for a Word of Thanks campaign back in 2021? Yeah, 2021. And then last year we had the vaccine-inspired shot ski when everybody was getting their COVID vaccinations. You can download all 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022 on 9news.com.
Shot ski, still very clever there. Well, temperatures are cooling down very quickly around DIA. We're at 38 degrees. It feels like 30 with winds coming down from the north-northwest at 13 miles per hour. So those winds are going to continue to pick up, and coming down from the north and northwest, it's going to be very cold. So we're seeing those temperatures dropping very quickly. What we're also seeing is this system continuing to push in from the west. You can see it right now over north central portions of Nevada, but that's going to eventually make its way here into Colorado. In the meantime, we're seeing those snow showers linger across the western slope and portions of the high country, not making its way into the Front Range or Eastern Plains quite yet. We will see that later this evening, maybe around 8, 9, 10 o'clock into the overnight hours and early tomorrow. So with all of this snow and these strong winds we're expecting, we have several winter weather alerts. All of the teal, including Denver, winter weather advisories that'll be in effect. Denver, the I-25 corridor from Fort Collins to around Colorado Springs, expecting around 2 to 4 inches of snow, winds gusting 50, 55 miles per hour. Now, we have a couple of winter storm warnings that'll be in effect. To the southwest, we have the southwest San Juan Mountains, 6 to 12 inches of snow expected there, with winds gusting 45 miles per hour. We'll see those larger totals around Elkhead and Park Mountains, where we could see 12 to 24 inches of snowfall there. Now, to the northeastern corner of the state, we have a blizzard warning that'll be in effect, and this is going to be due to both the snowfall and the strong winds in this area, gusting around 60 miles per hour. Outside of that, we have a couple of avalanche warnings and watches that'll be in effect, so you do want to continue to be aware of those backcountry areas as they could be very dangerous. And then central portions of the eastern plains, all along the eastern plains, we're going to see those winds gusting 60, 65 miles per hour. Northern portions will be accompanied with snow, so we have blizzard alerts there, but we have high wind alerts here where we have a high wind warning and a high wind watch that we're going to continue to monitor. Now, behind this snow, we're going to continue to see colder weather. Even after the snow moves out Tuesday, we stay dry and windy on Wednesday, but the rest of the week, those temperatures staying below average, maxing out in the lower to mid 30s.
The work of a once prominent architect is disappearing across the U.S. His home in Cherry Creek could be the next to go.
It could be something that can teach future generations. It could be something that Denver can be proud of.
Fans of his work are taking an unconventional route to preserve that piece of history. Next.
Architect Richard Crowther was an early adopter of sustainable design, working eco-friendly stuff into his buildings across the U.S. And he did that here in Denver, where he lived. Some of his works, restaurants, theaters, stores, homes, have long since disappeared and been replaced. But his home has been standing in Cherry Creek since 1979. There are some community members fighting for it to stay, despite a developer's plan to demolish it. There's a group dedicated to preserving mid-century modern design, groups called Docomomo. I'm going to say it again because it's fun. Docomomo. The Docomomians, as I assume they are called, acknowledge that the style is not for everyone. I mean, yikes. But they say that that house on Madison Street in Cherry Creek is a prime example of the style. So when a developer bought the land and filed for a demolition permit, the Docomomians linked up with historians and some city planners to ask that that site be protected as a landmark. This is a long shot, but it's going to go before City Council tonight.
Well, the idea is preservation of the structure, not necessarily landmark status. Unfortunately, in this case, somebody purchased it and put in the application to have it demolished.
Denver's Landmark Preservation Committee is going to present the preservation plan to City Council before public comment tonight. Talk about this being a long shot. Since 2006, Denver City Council has approved one property for preservation, despite a developer's plans for demolition. That was the Beth Eden Baptist Church in the West Highland neighborhood. We are back with one of our favorite holiday fails and feedback about the Docomomo. Man, I messed it up. Fifth time. Docomomo. No. Forget it. Feedback next. Don't stress about everything being perfect this season. The holiday fails are more fun anyway, to be honest with you. Viewer named Melissa Lux sent us this photo of her very hungry German Shepherd Bruiser feasting. He says he got his paws on the rolls right out of the oven, took them to the backyard so that he could eat in peace without the humans bothering him. I like that. Send us the good stuff, and by good stuff, we mean the terrible stuff. The holiday's gone haywire. This could be stuff that you laugh about, stuff that you cry about, whatever, because everybody else is going to think it's hysterical. Email it to next@9news.com. Important piece of feedback tonight about the bag fee that you all have so many questions about. Kevin Baumer, who's head of the Colorado Municipal League, so looks at city issues, municipal issues all over the state, wrote in to note that it is, in fact, a fee and not a tax. They're structured differently. If it's a tax, of course, because of the Colorado Taxpayer Bill of Rights, you would have voted on it. You didn't vote on it. So when you pay more for your plastic single-use grocery bags, just know it's a fee. Comes out of your pocket all the same. A nice note from somebody who appreciated that I put in the effort to properly pronounce Iglesia Ciudad de Dios. So far, we have not gotten any angry emails from the Docomomians about the fact that I messed up the pronunciation of Docomomo earlier. I also learned that their local chapter is Docomomoco. Seriously. See you next time.